Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome one and all to today's Daily Newcastle podcast. My name's Iain Mackay. I'm your host tonight. I am hosting two of my good buddies, Mr. Michael Grainsclaw. How you doing, Michael?
I'm all good, Iain. How about you?
I'm fine, thank you. And on the other side, Mr. Kevin Esther. How are you doing, Kevin?
I'm buzzing. That's going to be 4 trips to Wembley this year alone, isn't it? So can't wait.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Out.
To everybody on the you watching on the YouTube channel, for some reason these two have both got tickets out in their black and white Newcastle stuff. I feel a little bit like I'm letting down the team, but no. If you cut me, I would actually be bleeding black and white. So I think that counts just as much.
100%.
Anyway, welcome, boys. We are here to review Saturday's game against Birmingham City at St Andrews in the 4th round of the FA Cup, which, of course, I know you were watching. Newcastle won that bruising encounter 3-2 and moved through into the 5th round, the draw of which will be made on Monday evening at 7 o'clock.
Proper FA Cup tie.
Before we get stuck into the nitty-gritty of the game, and it was, I enjoyed it. I was terrified in it, but we'll talk about that in a bit. There was a lot of talk beforehand about whether the FA Cup was a bit too far for Newcastle. Did we really want to get through this game and distract ourselves with another cup run when we've got a final to focus on in a month's time and some really big games in the Premier League to get through, because finishing in the top 5 and qualifying for the Champions League is the be-all and end-all. I couldn't really understand what people were saying because I'm very old and the FA Cup has always been a wonderful competition since I was knee-high to the proverbial grasshopper. Michael, as one of our younger members of the team,
Guilty.
What do you think? Was the FA Cup still carries the clout that it's actually the most important competition to go through, or what did you think? Is it a cup too far?
I think Manchester City have a lot to answer for because they've made the cups feel pretty minor. I think, you go in, you look at before the last 10 years, Middlesbrough were winning cups, Bolton were in the finals, you had Wigan, Portsmouth, Birmingham, all these teams getting cup finals, winning it. Yeah, Millwall, was it 02-03?
Yeah, Man United in the final.
If only Millwall had won, London never would have recovered.
There'd be no other London teams left. Millwall would have killed them all.
Exactly. But the last 10 years, because Man City have won them all, won a lot. Can't say them all. Liverpool up there as well. It kind of feels like it's the same teams winning every year, and the FA Cup's kind of lost a bit of prestige because of that. I think if you have a run where, let's say, the likes of Newcastle, maybe Villas, your Nottingham Forests, Bournemouths, Brightons, those teams that play great football, but, haven't really got the prestige. If they're starting to win those trophies, then all of a sudden the FA Cup becomes number one priority again, for mid-table sides at least. For Newcastle, we do have the League Cup final, we do have the Premier League, but we played pretty much our reserves yesterday. Bruno got a 45 minutes, Tonali did. Burn has come off injured. Shaw's took a knock. So it has had an effect, but I think if you can get as far as you can without having to put extra strain on your big names, to be honest, Isak only came on for a minute, perfectly fine. If you can get to the later stages, which we're in the 5th round now, there's only 16 teams left, most of the big teams are out, you can get that far without stressing too many of your big players by playing the likes of, no disrespect to Birmingham, but Birmingham, Bromley, etc., then why not give it a shout? Why not go forward? Why not try and win it? Because imagine if we made 2 trips to Wembley in cup finals this season. It'd
3.
be unheard of for us.
Actually, 4. Semi-finals there, isn't it?
Finals is... I meant final. I said final.
Michael.
But
sorry,
finals,
Michael.
semi-final...
Getting excited.
Semi-final shouldn't be at Wembley anyways, but
I agree.
That's not It's an argument for a different day, and I don't want to take over the podcast. So,
Have you already counted
back to you
have you already
guys.
counted the extra trip to Wembley in August when we'd have to turn up and play at the Charity Shield? if
That's
we'd
my
won the FA
fourth.
Cup?
Oh.
That's my fourth. Yeah, that would be
The fourth one,
4
got you.
Wembley trips in 2025 alone. Well done, Ian.
Blimey.
That's another tin pot trophy. Get rid of that.
We'll win that as well, man. Treble.
Yeah,
Domestic.
after we've won it.
Anyway,
Treble.
Kevin, you're showing your hand. Before I ask you that same question, I've just got to observe as you run through the teams that may have a better chance of winning it. That we just heard. I just listened to Aston Villa, not Tottenham. I've only mentioned that because they did get through to the final a year or two ago against Manchester City, and specifically for my Aston Villa supporting friend who listens to a lot of the Daily Newcastle. What was the score that time? Was that the 6-0? I think that was the 6-0, wasn't it? So
Yeah, they're letting
anyway,
a lot.
sorry. He'll be going up the Villa. Anyway, Kevin,
Great.
FA Cup a serious competition for us, or should we just pass it?
Absolutely. I mean, why would you just want to win one cup? We're going to win one, guaranteed. So that's in the bag. We've got the League Cup now, so that's we're buzzing with that one. Let's go win the FA Cup. And look, there's only 2. I'm not going to call them a big 6 anymore. There's only 2 of a protected 6 left, and that's Manchester City, who are having the worst time we could possibly have, which I'm loving witnessing, in a mid-table team called Man United. So why can't we go and now we've got to be up there with the favourites, surely now. I don't know what the bookies look like. We've got Forest to play tomorrow night. We've got to be up there. It just give us a half-decent draw. And we're due good draws. If you look at our last 2 years under Eddie Howe, apart from this season, it's been a little bit kinder this season. We've had some horrendous draws and always getting drawn away. Now's the time. Now is the time. FA Cup winners, League Cup winners, and we're probably going to finish runners-up in the Premier League. What a season. Well done, Eddie. Can we just end football now? Can we just end football ends now, right?
Without
it's
us winning anything.
unbelievable to be a Newcastle fan. That's it. It's done. Just the game's done. We can still play it in Spain and Italy, but Newcastle finish this season FA Cup champions, League Cup champions, and runners-up in the league. What a time to be alive, Ian. Why would anyone not want to win the FA Cup?
I agree with you. And certainly I can't really see anybody who has aspirations. But a buzz every time you hear the word aspirations used. I think that was the Monty Python thing many years ago. Anyone who's got aspirations to playing in Europe, 8 matches in the qualifying for the Champions League midweek, surely we can accommodate the odd extra game from the Premier League to be able to get through quarterfinals and semi-finals of the FA Cup.
And we've got the 2 new signings. We've got a new right winger who's an absolute house, and we've got a brand new striker who scored again. Shock horror. So 2 new signings.
Apparently, he had to show his passport to be able to get onto the team bus because nobody recognised him. But Alan Wilson, you're talking about, isn't it? And
scores goals. Honestly, his record is unbelievable. If you keep him fit, he'll score goals. He's like a new signing now. We should be buzzing about that as well. We've got Wilson back scoring. Willick's got his confidence back, and we've got a brand new right winger. But I'm not going to take over the show. I'm going to let Ian run it.
Right. Well, I think that's fair enough. Thank you very much, Kev. Interestingly, I think Isak scored his 50th goal, 49th and 50th goal when he got the 2 against Arsenal.
50th, yeah.
2 against Arsenal, I don't mean that, do I? He's 50, isn't he? He's 50 goals.
It was against Arsenal, yeah.
And Wilson's
48
goal yesterday makes him put him on 49.
Yeah, 49, yeah.
We're going to have a little bit of a ding-dong battle towards the end of the season as to who finishes second to Shearer. I'm not taking any bets on that, though. Right, look, I think what we need to do is actually have a look at who played, how the game went, what we got out of it. We're going to do that in part 2. So I'm going to turn to our very own professional sports journalist, Mr. Michael Brainslaw, to deliver the Zencastr advert like he was reading the shipping forecast.
And here on the West Coast, now here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. And Zencastr came out a clear winner with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. And if you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. And for those after the weather, shock, it's raining in Newcastle.
Well, it's sold. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael. Part 2. The team that was picked. I guess it was fairly obvious Pope was going to come in for Dúbravka. Here replaced by Livramento. That was fairly standard. Very, very pleased to see that Botman's not ripped and Shah got a rest and they play Emil Kraft. Emil Kraft is an excellent centre-half stroke fullback who does not get to play anywhere near as many minutes as I think he deserves, because in my view, Eddie doesn't use his squad. He picks his first team and then fills in if anybody gets injured, which I think I've been critical of. But Emil Kraft played from the start yesterday. Target coming in for Hall, gave him a rest. That was all fairly expected. Bit of a shock in midfield when Bruno lined up with Willock and Miley, because I thought all three of us. Joe was out injured, but I thought both Tonali and Guimaraes would be given a rest. Quite clever just to give them half a game each. And then what a first ever forward line of Willock down the left wing, Asula down the right wing, and Callum Wilson up front, which was fresh. Anyway, would you have done anything different, Kevin?
I would have liked to have seen Bruno rested, but I don't think we could have, unless you play Willock as a centre midfielder and bring in someone like a Sanusi. But I mean, that's way too much of a gamble away from home against a team who were clearly well up for it. But yeah, I really like, when I saw the team, I thought, yes, like there's a lot of rest happening there for our first team players. I was actually a bit apprehensive about seeing Callum Wilson back. I am obviously Callum Wilson's biggest fan. I love the type of striker he is. I love how he plays. I love watching him. I love everything he's done for us. But I was just like, oh my God. When Birmingham were getting physical, I thought Wilson's going to be the one to go here. He's going to get chucked into a sponsor board and he's going to be out with a broken back for about 10 weeks. And I was just like, please bring him off. Please bring him off. But he survived. He got through and he obviously got a goal, which is what Callum Wilson does. But yeah, I think lineup wise, I was very, very happy. Personally, I would have liked to have seen people like Sanusi on the bench, but I guess, I mean, maybe we had two goalkeepers on the bench. We had Dúbravka and Ruddy. Maybe just give Dúbravka the night off completely and maybe put someone like a Sanusi on there, but he probably wouldn't have got on anyway because it was very, very close all the way through. And obviously we had a nightmare start as well, didn't we?
Yeah.
Well, there was a young lad on the bench from the under 18s, I think, not even from the under 21s, Neve.
Yeah.
I guess if we'd gone 4 up at half time, he might have got the last 20 minutes, but it's probably just letting him experience the match day around the first team squad, which is okay. Michael, did you like the look of the lineup?
Yeah, I thought, to be honest, the one thing that worried me slightly was having the two strikers. I didn't quite know how Asula would work on the right, to be honest, apart from missing an absolute sitter, which we're not going to talk about.
It was an assist. Backheel assist.
Exactly. He got 2 assists, and honestly, he was actually really good on the day. So the only position I was slightly worried about ended up being one of the best players on the pitch. So shows what I know, really.
Yeah. It was just going into the first half. It was a bit of an inauspicious start. Given that we're a team that has only conceded once all season from a corner, it was a bit of a shock to be one behind after 40 seconds from a corner. But I guess that there is an explanation, because that was a completely makeshift back four, never sort of played together. But after that, I thought we did quite well. I thought we played ourselves back into it. One thing which I hadn't realised we would need to do would be to roll our sleeves up, get our armour chest plates on, and actually fight our way back into the game. Those Birmingham lads were a little bit rough, weren't they, Michael?
A little bit. Jesus.
I'll be honest.
Chuck 2 of our players into the sponsor board, which To be honest, I think if it wasn't against Newcastle, I'd be watching thinking, "Oh, this is a proper cup tie. Get in! What a brilliant watch!" But then actually, I'm watching it as a Newcastle fan, thinking, "Please don't injure Shaw. Please don't injure Burn. Please keep Callum Wilson fit." And I'm thinking, right, referee needs to get a hold of this now. So then, to be honest, let's face it, if Birmingham try to go toe-to-toe with us, even with that lineup, we weren't going to get anything. So I guess they had to do their best to try and get something. But yeah, it was a little bit over the top.
That's
I do
the
understand it.
To start off, the first 15, 20 minutes of the game, they did go toe-to-toe with us, and they were the better team. When it was a football match, Birmingham were the better side. It's when they took inspiration from Tom Brady and went, you know what, we're going to play American football now. Super Bowl's at the weekend, we want to partake. And then just start shoving our players all over the pitch. It was when it became an American football game that, it got a bit scrappy. And Newcastle actually got 2 quick-fire goals because Birmingham was so bothered about taking our players out of the game that they forgot to defend. And I'll be honest, it took a cup tie where at the start of it, I was sitting there going, this is going to be a difficult one. I'm not really all that up for it, but I'd love it if we got some. So at the end, when Willick scores the winner for 3-2, I'm ecstatic because they were so dirty, and I can imagine it's exactly what teams think when they come to St James's Park, like on Wednesday against Arsenal. I mean, we played them off the park, so maybe not. But the couple in the years before, when we've used the old dark arts, I can imagine that's what teams have thought, but it made it a lot.
Yeah.
It made a lot more of a passionate game
We use
say.
dark arts, but we don't WWE body slam people into sponsor balls. I don't think anyone's ever felt that about Newcastle. But yeah,
there was a fantastic American football tackle on Willick, wasn't there?
Yeah.
By Clara, I think he was, who you could see Willick was past him in a way, and he just sort of turned and ran sideways to be able to take him out. A proper linebacker move. But I guess, that as you take care, that's the way to remain competitive when they haven't spent 250, 300 million on the players. No, we didn't have all of those on the pitch, but I mean, we are that squad now.
Yeah.
So then we get into the second half. Oh, what a fantastic goal, by the way, for their equaliser was. I've never really seen a shot hit as quickly as that for many years. And what it brought home to me, by the way, and again, I think this is another bit of poison that's been introduced into the game by teams that are led by managers such as Pep Guardiola.
Ooh.
People don't have a shot from outside the box pretty much these days, do they? They want to retain possession and pass it backwards and forwards, and it just shows if you buy a ticket for the lottery and you hit it right, you can score to the point where the opposition fans are just dumbfounded, going, "Well, yeah, that's got to count. That's probably should count too, the way he hit that one." Yeah, absolutely wonderful goal. Big switch at half time, and I think this was the critical switch for us to get the control that we needed in the second half. Marish comes off, Tonali comes on. I think Tonali coming on certainly improved the performances of Miley and Longstaff alongside him. But I think we had far more control in the second half. Not total control. Obviously, it took us a while to get ahead. And I know that they had one or two good chances. Their centre forward missed a header that he really should have at least had on target. But I felt far more relaxed watching us play out the last 20 minutes, whatever it was, with a 3-2 lead than I had done trying to defend a 2-1 lead at the end of the first half. Anything else to add on how that second half went? Michael?
I think it's one of those where I think when you look at the goal scored an early corner and then their goal, we actually defended probably a bit better than you give credit for. But again, the main thing for me was just how rough they were. That 11 we put out was the most injury-prone 11 that has ever been fielded in a football match. And it was terrifying. But I do have to give a big sort of shout-out to Joe Willick. I've slated him more than anyone, I feel. But he was one of the only players that, and let's be honest, very injury-prone. That's a game that if an injury-prone player, if he takes a step back and doesn't go into the 50-50s, etc., you're sitting there going, you know what, I'm not surprised. But he was one of the only players that take his 2 goals out of the equation. He was stood up and was counted. He led us through the game, did really well. And to be honest, I've said Willick needed a game to get his confidence back. I think that was probably it. On the negative side, Longstaff and Miley, it was probably Miley's worst game for us, if I'm completely honest. From what I'd seen, I didn't think he was good at all. And Longstaff, I think, what can I say about Longstaff that hasn't probably already been said on socials? But he had a poor game as well. And I think Bruno wasn't any better when he was on. Tonali was fantastic, as he said, but midfield three was probably where it became more of a 50-50 game because Iwata was really good. He played in the central. Kieran Dowell was really good for them as well. Keshi Anderson was fantastic, but I think Livramento handled him really well. So it was just one of those where we just couldn't really seem to do all that much first half. Second half, I do completely agree. We had a lot more control of the game. Probably, as you say, coincides with Tonali coming on. But I also thought Jacob Murphy came on and did really well as well. So we've got through it. We're into the hat for the next round. It was a tough tie. It was the biggest game of Birmingham's season based off the fireworks before the game, which is pathetic. But yeah, it was a good tie.
Well, to be fair to them, they hadn't lost at home since early August or mid-August, and the only time they'd lost at home was to a Premier League side in the Carabao Cup. Oh. So they were always going to be confident at home, and they were revved up. It was their cup final. Unfortunately, they've lost it narrowly. Never mind. We'll just have a little bit of an assessment of what we can take out of this for the upcoming games in part 3. But first, I'm going to turn to Kevin Esther and ask you to do our GSPN advert.
But just before that, you talk about Birmingham losing their cup final. I'll tell you who isn't losing their cup final this season. That's Newcastle United. Yeah, it is. Oh, we have it too. Right, anyway. More importantly, the Global Sports Podcast Network is changing the face of football podcasting with dedicated daily content for every Premier League team. It includes women's football, and it even has a dedicated Premier League wrap-up. It also comes in 5 different languages, and this is your one-stop shop for your daily football fix. Find the Global Sports Podcast Network wherever you find your usual podcasts.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin. And have you been nobbled by outside forces to say as many things as possible to jinx Newcastle?
No jinxing. We know what's happening this year. It's not happening. I'm telling you. I said it on I can't remember the last episode I was on. I forget. I said this is our year. It just has to be. It is. I'm in blind belief, and no one's changing my mind on this. We are winning that final. Jinx doesn't come into it. Luck doesn't exist. We are winning it. We are winning it this time.
Remember when Mike Ashley said we make our own luck, and then we were dreadful for about 5 years afterwards?
Yep, we deserve
This is exactly that.
Yep.
Although I will say, I did just open up the betting odds after you mentioned it earlier. Newcastle are the favourites to make the final of the FA Cup as well.
Told you. So had to be. There's nobody left.
5-1. 5-1. Man City obviously favourites. Then you got Man United and Villa just behind us. But if you keep causing us to lose and jinx it.
I haven't jinxed it yet.
If we lose 2 finals this year, I'm blaming you.
I haven't jinxed it yet. We're not losing any finals.
We need a home draw against anybody in round 5, and then we'll be sorted. But I did say to you beforehand, didn't I, that because Liverpool were knocked out this afternoon away at Plymouth, I didn't dream that, did I? That happened.
That did happen.
Liverpool are knocked out. I feel like we have a better chance of winning the FA Cup than we do the Carabao Cup. And when you say luck doesn't come into it, Kevin, I hope that great luck comes into it on our behalf and very bad luck comes into it on Liverpool's behalf. Because then I think we've got a chance of beating them. Anyway, we're waffling on about other stuff. What I was interested to hear your views on was whether we can take anything out of the performances yesterday in a positive way for the difficult upcoming 5 or 6 games that we have, culminating in that Carabao Cup final, in a way that after the Bromley game we couldn't, because nobody really put an advert in the shop window for them to be considered for selection to the first team. I think that yesterday's game was different. What do you think, Kev?
I think Willick definitely, because we've seen that he can do it in the Premier League as well. I mean, we can't forget. I know Birmingham had that amazing home record you just mentioned, but still a League One team. But we've seen Willick do it in the Premier League before, and exactly like Michael said, he just needed a bit of a confidence boost, and that's got to be fantastic for him to get 2 goals in a not a new position, but probably not his favourite position. So definitely we've got Willick back, hopefully firing and in good form and ready to go again. So I think that's a big positive. Callum Wilson.
Really important, given that Joe Linton might be out for 3 or 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So we need somebody to slot in on that left-hand side.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
Yeah. No, all good. Callum Wilson as well. His goal record at Newcastle United is goals per minute is unbelievable. Natural goal scorer, proper old-fashioned poacher. Is very good at holding it up. Very good at timing his runs. Everything about Callum Wilson, I think, is absolute quality. Just apart from his fitness, really, we need to keep him fit. So, look, if he can stay fit, he's like a new signing. Like I said at the start of a podcast, so I think Willick and Wilson being back are huge.
Yeah.
I think Osula was a big positive. However, it's against League One opposition. Is he really that good? I loved him. I loved the performance on the right wing. I loved his housery. I loved his feet, his skill, his willingness to run. His pace is all brilliant. However, is League One his level? I don't know quite yet. He's still got time to work with Eddie. He did look brilliant, though. And then my last one before I kind of give it up to Michael and you, Ian. I thought Kraft was fantastic. I thought he was a real big positive. We've seen him in the Premier League as well perform really well, and he's one of them players, I believe, even though he hasn't had the opportunity to shine like some of us, that Eddie Howe has just worked miracles with. He's unrecognisable to the Emil Kraft before Eddie Howe. This version of Emil Kraft with Eddie Howe looks like he could play anywhere and do us just do a brilliant job for us. So I'm really excited he's back from injury as well.
Again, that's important because Dan Burn did something with his groin. We're not sure what state that Sven Botman's in. I know he was rested and they say it's not serious, but, we're away at Man City in 6 days. So if either of those need a further week's rest, then I think Kraft should come in alongside Star. I thought they did okay. Mm-hmm. Michael, I was going to ask Kev to give us 2, and he's given us 4. Which not really anybody to talk to. So I'm going to ask you specifically, did you think that Nick Pope did enough to displace Martin Dúbravka, or did he just do enough, because he did make 1 or 2 fabulous saves, to give us a lot of confidence that we've got a fabulous backup keeper sitting on the bench?
Yeah, I think it's one of those where Dúbravka has been decent since he's come in. We have seen a few more of his flaws in the more recent games, I would say. Nick Pope, you can't say he's shone against Birmingham, because there was a few times where it didn't look great. His distribution for the most part wasn't fantastic, but what I would say at the same time,
horrible, windy, wet, nasty, foggy, horrible, cold day.
Come on,
football's football.
Everyone's distribution was rubbish
every day of his life. How can he not pass a ball like it bugs life? I like Nick Pope. He's a great keeper, but how do you have a ball at your feet every day of your life for how old is he? 30 odd years, pretty much. And still not be able to just chip it to a fullback. Come on.
No, it's got long legs, so the levers are much more sensitive when they're that long than people with normal sized legs, Kevin. I don't know if you're going to believe that one. Michael, anybody else? What about, I don't think Target displaces Hall, but looks like he can do a defensive job at left back. I was quite pleased to see him get some minutes.
Yeah, he was the other one, to be honest, for me. I thought he played quite well.
What was your thought on Osula? Does he mean that Jacob Murphy only has to play an hour a game now?
I wouldn't go that far. But I do think it's one of those where we've been sitting there going, look, we have no options now with Miggy gone. It's Murphy or bust. It's not Gordon can play over there, obviously. Barnes has had a little bit of a cameo there. But I wouldn't mind. Yeah, Joe Linton could even go over. But I wouldn't mind seeing Osula out there. Because, let's be honest, Harry Cochrane, who played left back, wasn't exactly the most physical player in the world. But what I will say is Osula did run him ragged in regards to his physicality on the wing. And we know how good Joe Linton is on the wing when he can get physical with the fullback, who is traditionally around 5'8", 5'9". William Osula up against the right back. When we need to hoof it long a little bit more, I think he could definitely fit in there for the last 10, 15 minutes of a game. And it shows we've got options. I think Isak, Wilson and Osula as three options at striker most of the time. There's not many teams who have three striker options that good. And I'm not saying Osula's fantastic. He's not. We've seen enough this season to know that he's raw.
Yeah.
But Callum Wilson, when fit, Kev, you said it a number of times, he's one of the best in the league when fit.
Yeah.
Isak is the best in the league when fit.
Exactly. Win the league, Michael. You've just convinced us. We're going to win the Premier League as well.
Yeah, have you seen our backline? We're not winning the league.
We'll
win the League Cup, though.
Crafu, Shaw, Botman and Byrne.
Yeah, we'll do a cup double. We'll do a cup double, sign 2 players in the summer, and we'll win the league next year. Does that sound like a good plan?
Sounds good.
I'll settle for it. It's okay, I guess.
Okay. Let's stop on that very, very positive note. And Michael and I will keep our fingers crossed that we get to see Osula do at least 20 minutes every game. I mean, compared to Miggy coming on at right wing, getting Osula on, it's exciting, isn't it? It's exciting.
I think, do you know if you're behind, though, you could put Wilson through the middle and Isak out right or out left with Gordon on the other one. You could have Wilson, Isak and Gordon if you're behind. But yeah, I'll not go too much into that.
Thank you very much indeed for joining in, Michael. Very, very constructive comments. I've enjoyed your contribution immensely. Kevin,
thank you.
You just talk whatever the hell you wanted and nobody will possibly follow any of your arguments. They think you've deluded me. You shall be back very, very soon. See you all then.
Every club,